is running this portion of the meeting, so I hand it over to him.
Okay. Dr. DePasquale, thank you very much for coming here this evening, and once again, thank you for applying. As I stated before, we have some questions that the board members are going to go around and ask. At the end, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask any questions of us, and of course, you're welcome to join and sit in the audience afterwards. Mr. De Silva has the first question.
That was easy, right? What prompted you to submit your application to become a member of the Board of Education, and is there anything in particular that interests you about this position?
I guess in November I was a little dismayed to hear only 3 folks ran for office. I was a little disappointed there wasn't more interest in the town. And that sort of prompted the discussion with my wife about, you know, what do you think? Do I have time for this? I've got 3 kids in the system right now, and we just had another one last April, so we'll have kids in Mahwah for the next 18 years, which made me realize, you know, you've got a vested interest in this. So that really kicked it off. And then when I learned of the opening, I decided this seemed like a good opportunity to get involved.
Hi, Peter. What do you see as the duties and responsibilities of a Board of Education member?
I think it's sort of oversight and guidance of the entire education system here in the town. Certainly there's a lot here between budgetary and contractual and curriculum standards and just the whole enchilada. I think it's safe to admit I probably don't even know what I don't know about what the duties and responsibilities are. I can imagine they're greater than I can imagine. But you know, I've been to a few meetings. I'm starting to come up to speed on how business is handled and get an idea what you all seem to discuss and vote on. So.
Mike Gallup, what personal or professional attributes would you bring to the Board of Education, and how do you see it enhancing our operations?
Well, as far as the enhancement part, that's hard for me to answer because I don't know all of you. But as I've noted in my application letter, I'm a former college professor. I've sort of been on the other side as a faculty member in a state institution. I've been waiting for my contract to come along. I've got some background in curriculum. So I think I bring a lot of those professional aspects of my former life. I decided to go back into industry recently. But I still have an eye towards education, and my research area was computer science education. So curriculum, instruction, all of that kind of stuff is sort of near and dear to my heart. More personally, like I said, you know, my children are in the system. One is receiving a variety of services here in Mahwah. I've got 2 other children that live with my ex-wife in South Jersey that are special needs and receive considerably more services. So I've got a wide interest in, you know, curriculum, technology, special ed, a lot of the things you folks obviously touch on a very frequent basis. And I'd like to get involved and try to make some impact and help with those issues.
You want to elaborate a little bit more about your interest in the technology? I mean, considering that you...
How much time do we have?
Briefly.
20 minutes.
I was, growing up, I was in a very unique situation in that the year was, 1980s. I got my first instruction to computer programming in a summer camp situation. And when we went back to school, the town purchased a computer system that was used not just by the town for the town's purposes, but for the high school as well. So we actually used for those of you familiar with this, a time-sharing system that the town administrators were using, the town council and so forth. So we were kind of lucky that we were programming on something a little more advanced than all the other schools. And it made it a very unique situation. The town was very much behind it. That really molded my interest in technology curriculum because I had it at a pretty young age back then in the 80s. It wasn't just desktop computers that were starting to hit the market, and some families had them. And obviously since then, I've got what's now amounted to 4 college degrees in computer science. It's been a passion of mine. And when I sought my PhD, I decided I really got into it because I wanted to teach. I went to an undergraduate institution that was a liberal arts institution, small classrooms, great instruction, and that meant a lot to me as a student, and I wanted to do that kind of thing as a faculty member. So, you know, technology issues of all types have long been an interest of mine, whether it's online safety, or you know, STEM topics that we're teaching in the schools. Certainly I can talk a lot about, I think, the importance of computer programming and teaching that at a young age. It's a skill that's touching a lot of people's fields, and I know it's a hot topic, and you know, a lot of districts are integrating that in and so forth, but yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for applying.
Me next. Is there anything in particular that you would like to accomplish while in service to the district?
So part of this answer is a little tough because I feel like I'm throwing potentially some people under the bus or creating some problems. We have not had a positive experience arranging for services for my son this year at George Washington. I would like to see that improved. I believe there's been some mismanagement, and I believe there's been some fiscal waste, and that really bothers me as a taxpayer. And I'm very concerned that this is a little more widespread than just what happened to my family. So I think I'd put that at the top of the list.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Tell us a bit about your past or current involvement with any professional, community, school, and/or civic organizations. What roles have you taken with these organizations, and how do you feel your involvement has prepared you for service on the Board of Education?
Going back to my academic instruction days, I was on a number of committees at the College of New Jersey. So I've been in a number of occasions in committees like this, although probably less formal. Working together with others obviously is a big part of that job. Since I've left TCNJ, mostly my volunteerism and involvement have surrounded being a Cub Scout den leader for my son's den. With that, I'm involved in the organization, the PAC's leadership committee, as it were. Scheduling and organizing activities for the groups, things of that nature. This year I took on coaching soccer for my son's second grade team, which is a challenge in itself for second graders. I think the term herding cats is very aptly represented there. So that's probably the most recent ones that come to mind.
Hi, Peter. I'm Prima Murthy, and
I'm gonna have to look aside that you went to Virginia Tech, because I'm a Wahoo,
Well,
tried and true, but it's okay, we'll put that aside.
we all have our crosses
Sorry,
to bear.
I went to the University of Virginia, and Tech is the big rivalry, so, but again,
Understood.
I'm just teasing. Welcome. Did
Thanks.
you grow up in Virginia by chance?
I didn't, I grew up in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, because I did grow up in Virginia, so, anyway. At this time, do you see any limitations or conflicts of interest that might hamper you in fulfilling your responsibilities as a board member?
Not at all, not at all. I've already got all of the upcoming dates on my calendar as my family and I try to work around basketball schedules, baseball schedules, swimming, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Wonderful, thanks. And our meetings are held basically every 2 weeks, as you know, because it's already in your calendar, and with meetings once a month during the summer. A trustee can be removed from the board if they are absent for more than 3 consecutive meetings. Members are not only required to devote time to public meetings, but they are also required to volunteer their time by joining committees that might be of interest to them. Will you have sufficient time to devote to this position? Seems
Yes.
you thought about that
Yes.
already. I got the yes/no question. I'm just curious, since you are, such an expert in technology, computer science, in your field. Listen, a PhD gives you an expert in the field. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about the technology, some of the pilot programs that the district has tried and put forward, kind of what your thoughts are about technology in Mahwah and in this district in
I'm
particular?
admittedly, I'm probably not well enough versed at this point. I do know my daughter has some exposure at the high school. She's not the least bit interested in learning any of programming or taking programming classes. I know my son is using the laptop program at the Ridge pretty heavily. That seems to be successful. And my youngest, who's in, sorry, not my youngest. He used to be my youngest. Second grader is doing some math work every night on his laptop on some sites that they give him assignments on. So for me, it's been, because I've never really worked with this level of student and technology with them directly, it's interesting for me to see it in different levels. I'm pleased to see that we've had some initiatives to integrate technology across the board. The laptop initiative seems to be quite aggressive and interesting. I mean, it sounds like it's moving along quite well. To me, as a father, I see how it translates at home, and see how their comfort level is with technology, and then obviously their interest level in related fields.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for applying.
Thank you.
Pete, I'm Pete, and it's Peter J. also. Please tell us something about the Mahwah School District you're most proud of and why.
Boy, this is a touchy answer, right? Because if I don't say the band, the high school band, my daughter's really not going to be happy. I think, obviously she's in the band. I made it to a number of football games this year. So that combination of the football and the band and the excitement and enthusiasm of the kids was really nice to see this year. Prior to this year, I hadn't really been to a lot of games. She was a freshman this year in the high school, so we hadn't really experienced the whole band ecosystem. And then, of course, winning the state championship was really nice, and seeing the community rally around it, meeting some folks at the game, spent a couple of games missing half of it talking to teachers who were walking around. So for me, that's been the thing so far, but I know there's so much more.
As a little bit of history, 18 years ago, the marching band consisted of about 8 members wearing T-shirts and freezing their rear ends off in the rain. This program has come a long way. The whole music program has leapt and bounded to success. So you picked a good thing to talk about.
Great, and last but not least, do you have any specific questions for us, or do you need any further information at this time?
I don't. You and I have spoken occasionally on some of the questions I've had. Nothing really comes to mind. Certainly I'm interested in knowing more about the subcommittees if I'm selected, and that's sort of a post-selection thing. So I really don't. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.